So this is the handover for the Autocruise Jazz. We'll begin at the front of the vehicle with some of the cab operations. When you're looking under the floor, you've got your access to your engine battery, and below the passenger seat, you've got your vehicle tool kit. At the end of the dashboard, your bonnet release, and then your fuel filler cap using the ignition key is revealed behind the folding flap. To open the bonnet, there's a central latch up onto the stay. Over on the right hand side, you've got your screen wash, and then your power steering and brake fluid and radiator water, oil filler cap, and the dipstick is just down the front of the engine bay, like so. If you ever need to jump start the vehicle, because of the engine battery position, reveal the flap that's just there, attach your positive onto the paddle section and the negative onto the bolt, and you should be able to jump start the vehicle. When you come round to the driver's side of the vehicle, you've got your access flap for the mains hookup. So insert into the side of the van and then connect to your power supply that you're going to be using. On the skirt side, you've got down low your grey water outlet. Right, that's for draining off the water that's accumulated in the tank from the shower tray, vanity unit and kitchen sink. And then above that you have your fresh water flap access. So key in, turn, and then hose pipe your water supply into it. There's the option of using a 12 volt submersible and by plugging it into there. You've then got the exhaust port for the room heating, water heating system. Make sure that's not obscured when the unit's in use. When you open up the back doors, you've got a number of features. So when you open up into the back of the wardrobe section, you've got your access to the back of the sink unit, and then below that the cassette. For the cassette removal and disposal, make sure that the flap is shut on the inside first of all. Pull the whole unit back by drawing up on this yellow flap. Extend the neck out over the sluice, take the yellow cap off the top and tip up, and that allows then the waste to drain out when you depress the air release button. Before you load it back in, there's a measuring cup inside the top of the cap, up to a cap full of your base chemical. We recommend green for the Highlands, mixed with about 2 litres of water down the neck. Give it a little swirl round inside just to give you the mix, and then lock it back into position firmly with a nice solid click. Gas bottles sit into the locker here. There's space in here for 2. There's one that's been installed. Turn on and turn off via the brass knob on the top to get your gas flow through, and it goes through the regulator and into the rest of the van. There are some internal isolator taps that you can use as well. Changing over the gas bottle, previous owners left in a rather substantial gas spanner, but the idea being is that it's attached onto there and it's left hand thread to undo and do up. Above the gas locker, you have your access. You've got your mains cable into there, and then the leisure battery has been stowed into that section also. Below the sliding door, you have your freshwater outlet. All right, so that's used for draining off the onboard freshwater tank for winter storage, for example. Open up the sliding door, and located above the cabinet, you've got your electric step function. When you first come into the van, up above the sliding door, you have your Sargent 12 volt control panel. Center power button turns on your 12 volt supply. Immediately all of the lights light up, and then you can get your leisure battery and vehicle battery indications. Whichever battery you choose to use is the battery that will operate the internal circuit. Caution, obviously, if you're using the vehicle battery. Outside awning light can be turned on via the button that's indicated. There's a separate switch for the water pump as well. Suggests that that's used on demand. View levels gives you an indication of your fresh water and wastewater, as well as your battery level indicators. and then you have your master switch for your cabin light, which is turned on from there. There are two interior light switches which are located on the end of that control panel, and then there are other 12-volt switches around the inside of the van for other light functions. Adjacent to the switches, you've got your water heating and room heating controls. There's a drain valve on the water heater which we'll show you shortly, but with the drain valve primed, you should be able to draw water through the system. Right hand control is your task, left hand control is the source of the energy that you're going to be using. So if you turn the dial anti-clockwise, you'll turn the dial towards either a 40 or a 60 degree mark, and it will start to heat the water up to that prescribed temperature. Green light coming on indicates that it's in operation. If it's accompanied by an amber light like it is now, then it indicates that the water hasn't reached the temperature that you've selected. A red light would indicate a fault of some description. Turn the dial back to the mid position. You'll see that flickering light indicating that the unit is shutting down. We're going to ignore that and carry on down to the next position, position number 4. The flame symbol there doesn't mean that the appliance is running on gas. It actually just means that it's running the heating system exclusively. Central dial is your thermostat control. The higher the number, the greater the heat output. Water that's within the system will get hot, but not necessarily to any prescribed temperature. If you turn the dial to the bottom position, then you will be able to take the water up to 60 degrees. You'll see the reintroduction of the amber light. And again, once the amber light's gone out, then the water's reached that temperature and you've almost got thermostatic control for your room heating. All the time that we've had this set up, the left-hand dial has been set onto the gas position, indicated by the flame symbol that's there. If you are connected to the main supply and the correct buttons have been selected on the mains unit, then you have the option of using it as a single or a double wavy line, which are a 900 and 1800 watt electric elements respectively, so pure electric control. In the winter time, you've got the option of assisting it with gas, again the same low or higher output of electric but combined with the gas to give you your output. Below the forward-facing seat in the back, you have your Sergeant mains control panel and also the fuse board for the 12-volt system. There's a menu on the inside of the door for the fuses, so if you have problems or issues with the internal 12-volt operation, it could be related to that. There's also the ability to have a system shutdown. This will completely isolate the 12-volt supply and turn all the 12-volt systems off inside the back of the vehicle. If it's left in the off position, there is no feed from the alternator when you drive the vehicle through to the battery or any other functions. So for any application of use of the back of the van, then that 12-volt system needs to be switched on. Adjacent to that, you've got your mains control. I would always recommend that you connect to the side of the van first of all with your mains cable and then onto the sight post. It's advisable to start with everything in the off position before you connect. Having connected up, lift up the black switch, press the yellow switch in as a circuit breaker tester, and it should trip out, indicating that it's safe for you to use that circuitry. You can then come across then on the black and the residual red switches, and that turns on the mains supply. Above that, there's a bank of coloured lights. If there's problems with the main supply, perhaps if you're on the continent, you might see a reverse polarity indicator, but otherwise you'd have the green light on, indicating that there's a battery charge going into the leisure battery or the engine battery, whichever's been selected. If you want to use the water heating and or room heating systems, then both of these amber white lights need to be turned on for those appliances to work in that application. I mentioned earlier in the setting up of the water heater that there's a drain valve for the unit. When you go under the cushions that are under the wardrobe, you'll have access to the water heater that's there. This yellow tab in the horizontal position that it's at the moment, it's allowing the water to flow through the appliance so that it can be primed up. For winter storage, it's critical that this is lifted to the vertical position so the content of the water heater can drain out. Leave your interior taps open on the bathroom and kitchen taps so that the airflow can drain back through the system, and make sure that the pump is switched off. To prime it again, turn it back to the horizontal position. It can be in either direction. Turn your water supply on to prime it. When you open up the cupboard underneath the cooker, you'll notice a couple of red taps. These are in the horizontal position at the moment. They are the individual feeds to the oven and to the water heater. If they're turned through 90 degrees, then it isolates the supply to that specific appliance. The fridge in Autocruises tend to be 12 volt in operation, so you have initially a green light that will come on when the 12 volt system has been engaged within the rest of the van, and then you have a separate thermostat control. The higher the number, the colder the appliance will become. Separate freezer box located at the top. We've primed this one ready for your use. There's a feature at the top of these doors for storage. In this position at the moment, it allows the door to be fully closed. If it's moved over into this position, then you can leave it in a vented position for storage. With the gas connected up, you should be able to draw the gas through. Some of these appliances have isolators on the lids, so if the lid is brought down, it cuts out. On this one it doesn't, so be very, very careful. Make sure that this is all sufficiently cooled before you attempt to bring the lid down. The oven and grill are a combined application, so you turn in one direction for the oven to light up and then the opposite direction for the grill. For the operation of the toilet, there's a lever on the side of the bowl, so with the seat up you can pull that lever across. That allows your waste to go straight through. Flush water on this one comes from your onboard fresh water tank, so with the water pump switched on, you should be able to then flush water around the inside of the bowl, as much or as little as you feel that you need to use. Shut the slider over after use. So an indicator light will come on at the back here, telling you when it needs to be emptied. For the bed operation, pull out on this lever and rotate this base cushion all the way over. Pull up on the back spar, and that should allow then the back section to drop down into position. Push the insert with the cab seats as far forward as possible. Push the insert down the front to give you the extra bed length. And then there's a shooting bolt towards the back, and then rearrange the cushions accordingly to fill in the appropriate gaps. So semicircular cushion just there, and then the infill into that one to give you your double bed space. Television aerial is located inside the wardrobe. This one's got a signal finder on it as well, so turn the little micro switch on at the top, extend the aerial up like so. The greener this light becomes, the stronger the signal that's available to you to use. For travelling, draw the aerial back into the body of the van. I suggest having this section facing forwards. Lock it off and turn off the appliance. Your fuel rollout awning, put the T up into the slot and turn the handle accordingly. A couple of turns initially. Wind the awning out to a midpoint where you can reach the inside of the pelmet easily. The legs are spring loaded on these, so push in just slightly, let the leg fall through your hands, and then before you go to the vertical position, just bring it down and then lock the lever back onto itself at a 45-degree angle. Repeat for the other side, so compress the leg through your fingers and then lock it off. And then to extend the awning fully, walk the awning out accordingly. Full extension on the awning is about 2.5 meters. These are sunshades, so in wet or windy conditions, they need to be put away accordingly. All right. Your expectation is that these lock out dead straight. They don't. They always remain in a slight dog leg position. To retract it, it's the reverse. So wind the awning back in, again to a comfortable midpoint, and then fold the legs back into position with the foot around, spring loaded back up into the pelmet, and then the leg on the corresponding side, like so. And then wind the body of the awning in. One last thing to mention, the drop on this one's quite significant, so make sure that the sliding door is shut when you're opening and closing the awning, otherwise it's likely to catch onto the mechanism. So on this Autocruise, it's had a towed alarm fitted, which means that the normal Fiat Peugeot buttons that you would use on the remote control have actually been bypassed. Two buttons at the top are going to be the ones that you're most interested in. The button on the top left hand side will lock and arm the vehicle. If the doors are shut properly, you should hear a positive clunk and you'll see the indicators activate. When you unlock the vehicle, use the opposing button, and again it should unlock from there. As soon as you have done that, regardless of which door you're going to get in, always open and close the cab door. It prohibits the alarm system from resetting itself. Just inside the driver and passenger doors are two silver screens. These are exclusively for the side windows to act as your nighttime curtains and insulators. You've then got a separate blind for the cab windscreen. Make sure it's fully retracted and locked away before departure. When it comes to starting the vehicle, if you've disarmed the alarm within about 30 seconds or so and immediately get into the vehicle, you should be able to turn the key and start the vehicle up almost instantaneously. If not, what you will need to do is press the disarm button again, so that's the top right hand one. You'll see that the light changes from a red to a sort of an ambery colour, and then from there you should be able to start the vehicle up accordingly. Buzzer that you can hear sounding is because the step is out. Once the step is retracted, then the buzzer will stop. Also, if the vehicle's been left plugged into the mains, you'll also hear a buzzer sound as well. Banker buttons that are located next to the steering wheel are for your headlamp beam adjustment. They're also for accessing functions on the instrument binnacle, such as changing the mileage display and speed controls. Around the steering wheel, you've got three stalk controls. Right hand stalk is for your wiper and for your screen wash. Over on the left hand side at the top, you've got your indicators and side lights, and then you have a lower control for the cruise control. Central buttons are connected up to the stereo into the middle. For the operation of reverse, you'll need to pull up onto the collar and push the lever away from you and then up to the front of the dashboard to get reverse. Otherwise, the rest of the gears are fairly straightforward. So banker buttons along the bottom. Left hand button operates your heated wing mirrors, and then you have front and rear fog lamps, a button for your hazard lights, and then the ability to lock and unlock on the central locking button within. Ventilation controls are above for the direction of your fans, as well as obviously speed and temperature, and then the central button for the air conditioning. Stereo can be used independently of ignition if required, and then volume controls and presets are below, as well as the CD player. On this generation, you only have the clipboard function. Certain models this can rise up, but this generation, if it had an airbag in it, this operation was prohibited. There's ventilation into the back of the top glove box, which is connected to the air conditioning, and then you have two smaller glove boxes and a central door bin as well that can be locked using the ignition key. So that concludes the handover for your Autocruise Jazz. Sincerely hope that this van is going to give you lots of miles and lots of smiles. On behalf of Handover Camper Vans, thank you for watching.